Even when we got nothing to talk about, there's nowhere I'd rather be. 'Cause there's something about you and me just sitting around talking Scheetz.
All right, thank you, Dan Davidson. It is Talking Scheetz, and it is an exciting episode today, and it's brought to you by our good friends at Londonderry Dodge. Again, Londonderry Dodge, they will hook you up with a fantastic vehicle, and you just can't go wrong. Bailey and I both drive vehicles from Londonderry, and they will treat you right. Go see Mitch, go see Jamie, go see the entire great staff up in Northeast Edmonton at Londonderry Dodge. All right, it's time for our special guest, Bailey. I'm pretty nervous about this because this guy can control exactly how this goes.
Yeah, this isn't up to us anymore. We don't have I mean, usually we don't really have control of the show, but this time we really don't have control of the show.
Exactly. And I'm not used to being the third best looking person on the podcast either. You know, normally I'm at least number 2, but not this time. It is the amazing Wayne Lee. Edmonton's own, right? Or do you want to get more specific on the community you live in?
Yeah, no, born and raised in Edmonton, old Strathcona area, south side guy, and spent a little bit of time northern Alberta, Vancouver Island when I was growing up. But full circle, came back, and it's home.
All right. Well, Wayne Lee is, I got to know him as a hypnotist, but he's taken his career and what he does and in so many different so many different ways and so many different levels, from a keynote speaker, and he can absolutely transform your life in so many ways, and he's extremely entertaining, and he's just a really good guy. And Bailey, we're roughly the same age, and he looks like he's 30 years younger than me. So maybe there is something to be said for the way that this man lives. Hey.
Well, when I was doing some research, a big part of his motto is unlocking your next level of performance. And I think that maybe that's something that both of us could use, but it's got to be, maybe we need to unlock our next skincare routine as well. I don't know.
I'm going to say this, and then I'll get off the train that you're a handsome man, but you are Edmonton's John Stamos. Really, you are. Who are you trying to kid?
Well, I will take it all. I'll take all those compliments. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, and Wayne and I go back to again the hypnotist time, and obviously just continue to do that. But that's how I got to know you, and working through the radio station, and you'd be at different events, and I think you even hypnotized me once on the radio and convinced me I was Garth Brooks, and then I started to cry because I had just recently gone through my divorce with my wife at the time, and that was Garth Brooks, not me. I'm still happily married, for the record, but. I started to cry on the radio because I had gone through this divorce, although, I should have been happy because I was about to marry Trisha Yearwood. But anyway, it's amazing what you've done. And we want to get to the very beginning of this, because how does a kid from Strathcona, again, old Strathcona, decide that hypnotism is going to be a part of his life? I mean, let's talk about early on in your life and how that became a part of who you are.
For sure, yeah. So first of all, it's the short answer is it's definitely by accident. It wasn't somebody in my family that had the genes, although I did remember my dad talking about the Great Ravine.
Yes.
And he was like somebody that was well known in Canada, the man they call Ravine. And so I always had an interest of this hypnosis thing sounds really cool. So the seeds were planted. I also was introduced to a very amazing, great man. To this day, I keep in touch with him and we talk on a weekly basis. And that was the great magician, Dale Harney. So Dale was back in the 70s. I used to sit down with my dad and watch his TV magic show. And it was the most, I think, syndicated broadcast magic show in the world at the time. Like a homeboy from Edmonton as well. And putting the pieces together, I always loved to entertain. So that was the starting point, I think, of knowing that I was one of those class clowns or the person that wanted to be funny, keep the peace, people pleaser. But what really got me into the power of the mind was the sport of amateur wrestling. So I was literally dragged into that sport and this was actually, I was introduced to it when I was living on Vancouver Island. And the phys ed teacher was just such an influencer. He said, "You're gonna wrestle." There was no question. It was like, no. And the first year I just got beat up like crazy. Then I was around some really great wrestlers there, great coach. So I started to win and I really liked the sport. And then when I moved back to Alberta, I ended up fortunately wrestling with the Salisbury Wrestling Club, which was the best wrestling club in Canada at the time. And my coach, Glenn Perch, said to me, he says, "Wayne, how well do you want to do this year?" And I was in grade 10 by that time. And I said, "I want to make it into the finals of the Canadian National Wrestling Championships." And I was scared because I'd never been at that level. And it's a sport that is one-on-one, and it's the most fear I've ever felt in my life. And Glenn laid out the plan. He says, "This is what you have to do. You got to train 5 days a week. You got to also condition." And he told me exactly what to do. And then something that stood out that had a tremendous effect on my life in terms of the route that I took and leading me into hypnosis. He said, "You also have to visualize every day as if you've achieved that result." And it sparked something with me. I said, "I'm willing to do whatever it takes." So I started to visualize on a daily basis myself getting into the finals. I could feel my body like twisting and turning. I was at in math class. I still remember that, whatever was going on in math class, all I was thinking about was wrestling. And my body would be twisting and turning. And needless to say, I didn't do well in math that year. Did pretty good in wrestling. Fast forward, went to tons of tournaments. Again, reiterating how nervous I got. But I had a little mantra, and the mantra was like, "I'm going to make it into the finals." So that string of words that sparked me visualizing myself getting into the finals really got me to push back past a lot of that nervousness and just feeling like, oh, I can't do this. Finally make it to the national championships. Again, so overwhelmingly like nervous and seeing this grand stage of all these wrestlers. And I wrestled my first 3 matches, win those matches. Next match, if I win that match, I'd get into the finals. So I would achieve my goal of getting into the finals. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm going to make it into the finals, make it into the finals. And the fellow I'm wrestling is way stronger, way more experienced, but I'm just, got that in my mind. Step on the mat, whistle blows. We go back and forth for a full 5 minutes. It's a straight 5 minutes, and it's a 3-all tie. So I got 1 minute with my coach, Glenn, and then it's overtime. And to this day, I have no idea what he said to me because I'm in a trance-like state. I didn't know it or call it that at the time, but I was really in that hypnotic state. And so get back on the mat, whistle blows. We go grappling off the mat, out of bounds. I run back to the center, and the ref raises my hand. And I don't know how I did it, but I got the point going out of bounds. And so I was ecstatic. I was like, I'm in the finals. And the next day, I was pretty cocky because the person I'm going to be wrestling for the gold medal, I had beaten before at a previous tournament. So I'm looking at Glenn. I'm like, got this. Next day, I step on the mat, gold medal, whistle blows, and guess what?
You didn't get it.
I lost. And I was deflated, devastated. I mean, I hit my goal, but that was short-lived. And I said to Glenn, I said, "What, I beat that guy before. What happened?" He goes, "Well, what did you focus upon all year long, Wayne?" And it hit me like a brick, is that I focused in on getting into the finals, but I never, ever thought about winning the gold. Never, ever thought of pre-paving that in my mind. So then what Glenn said to me after that really has affected me in, I think, my path of teaching and entertaining and educating. He said, "Wayne, a lot of people feel like they're broken or they're not enough." He says, "People are never broken. They don't need to be fixed." He says, "The only thing that needs to be fixed is their focus. And focus is either going to have to flex, so you have to think bigger. Most people aren't thinking big enough. They're not dreaming enough. They're not expanding to outside of their comfort zone." And he also said most people, though, they need to flip their focus. They're continually living in a state of negativity, of frustration, doubt, fear. And once they flip it, the good news is there's always an opposite or reverse of what they're focusing on, which opens up the door to all possibilities. And I don't know if he said it exactly like that, but I've narrowed it down to articulate that you need to fix your focus.
Mm-hmm.
And when people do that, they realize that they can do much more than they ever thought. And so that always played out. Now bridging into, well, what happened to me is in that wrestling, I then started to focus in on winning the gold. And so for 3 years in a row, I won the national championships in amateur wrestling. And I was on my way to, we're living it right now in terms of what's going on, the Olympics. That was my big goal. And tragedy hit with a serious neck injury that I had, almost where I was paralyzed. I was paralyzed in my arms. I was supposed to have surgery. Never did have the surgery because it healed on its own, where all the doctors said that they wouldn't. Wrestled for another year, but never to that level of where I wanted to. So I had to also use the mindset to deal with what happened there. And then at the time, I didn't realize how many other big adversities I'd go through, but the mindset is always what takes you through those adversities of how you look at it. But in that moment, it led me into, hey, I always loved teaching. I love coaching. So I'm going to become a teacher. So I got my B.Ed and I became a teacher. And along that journey, I was in a nightclub watching a hypnosis show. Actually, it was Fantasy Nightclub way back in the day in West Edmonton Mall. I think it's now the casino. And I'm there with my girlfriend at the time. And we're watching this phenomenon, like people in this nightclub on stage thinking they're strippers. So you got these guys taking off their clothes. And I'm like, is this for real? I've never seen anything like this. And I was in total disbelief, but I was completely enamored of what's happening here. And then the hypnotist gave a suggestion where he had everybody thought they had lost their belly buttons on stage. And so they're looking for their belly buttons. And I'm like, how can this, they got to see their belly button. I'm laughing my head off because I'm still mind blown. Like, this is wild. But I didn't hear anything from my girlfriend. And so I turned, I looked at her, and there she was looking for her belly button. No word of a lie. She got hypnotized right there. She was just one of those types that could just fall into it. And I'm like, this is for real. There's something to this. And that moment, if I go back and I really analyze it, that was the moment that I asked that question, like, what is this all about? And that's been the continual journey for me, is answering what that question is. And I call it the 3 E's, and always wanting to entertain, educate, and hopefully empower people to from answering that question and being able to understand what's happening. So when I started to go out and watch all these hypnotists, I was just, gathering all this information. I became a school teacher. I was teaching. But on the side, I was gathering people in private parties and hypnotizing them and doing one-on-ones and doing it in my, basement. And there's an entertainment aspect to it that was I've never seen anything like it. I think it's the funniest thing I've ever seen. And it was the most fascinating. But what I've learned is, as I've gone into it and I have studied hypnosis, it's not what most people think it is. A lot of people think it's sleep or people losing control, when in fact, the best way I can describe it is that when people get hypnotized, they're still aware. They just don't care.
Right.
So the not caring
no inhibitions
is letting go of resistance. We have a beautiful capacity to analyze things, to be critical at what we take in and to make decisions. And then we have this capacity to store all of that information in what we call the subconscious. And when those two are talking to each other and they're in harmony, that's when the magic happens. But a lot of times people are like, I want to have a lot of money. I want to have great health. And then they have a stored belief that you usually picked up from childhood that says, you've never been able to do it. Probably won't do it this time. Other people can do it. It'll be too tough. So all that crap that's going on starts to conflict. And people have this dialogue, and that's why they feel stressed. They feel burned out. And the beauty is that it's all functional. If people understand that when people have a really strong desire and yet they have a conflicting belief, they're going to feel tension. They're going to feel tension, and that shows up in what we call our emotions or emotional state of fear, doubt, frustration. So it's always letting us know that we're not on a course of our true or unlimited potential. At the same time, it's a beautiful system of our subconscious and conscious talking together.
That
Wow.
is, yeah, I feel like I'm already.
I had to stop because I thought both of you fell into a trance right
And
there.
we were. I was listening so closely.
And you know what? For us to listen closely with
Yeah.
our genetic ADHD is quite the compliment to you.
Keeping us quiet for 5 minutes straight is like, we already know that you have you manifested this. You were like, I'm gonna go into talking Scheetz and they're gonna listen to me. So I can tell that you visualized that. I do have a specific question, because you said you kind of started talking to people at parties and things like that. I assume there's no Hogwarts for hypnosis. So how do you even go about learning the skills before you even approach a person? Like, where
Yeah.
do you get that training? I mean, we did say you look young, but I assume this was pre-YouTube. So where
Yes.
do you get that information to start?
Yeah, great question, Bailey. I think that there's a saying is that if you want to do something bad enough, you're going to find a way. And I think that's what happened for me. I was obsessed. So I still remember when I had seen the shows. Fortunately, like I know when I wrestled, we'd always watch the best wrestlers in the world in their videotapes, like the Russians. And so I also knew the same, as I just transferred that skill, is that I need to watch all these hypnotists. And so back in the 90s or late 80s into the 90s, there was lots of hypnotists coming through Edmonton, and great hypnotists. And again, the guy that I had seen was one of the guys that set the bar so high in terms of his show. That was a standard. And I'd watch, I would immerse myself. And through that, through the questions I was asking is, how do I do this? What is he doing? I picked up a lot. And then also having that belief that I can do this. And then going into a place called the library. Like,
I've heard of those. I've heard of those.
Yeah. Go to the library, and I literally would spend hours in there going to the sections on psychology, hypnosis, getting my hands on whatever I could, reading what I could. And then it also allowed me to reach out, or at least identify some of the best hypnotists in the world and start reaching out to them. And I was like, well, I want to find out what this is all about. So I remember at the time there was a fellow who since passed. His name was Gil Boyne, and he was with the LA Institute of Hypnotism. And I would call him and email him, and he was so gracious that he would give me an hour on the phone and just walk me through things. I would order all his materials, and I studied it like day and night. And through that, you could say I was self-taught, because there was no Hogwarts per se, and there was guys like Gil and a few other places that were doing the actual certification for hypnosis. But keep in mind, without the internet, we didn't know where all this was. You had to go to the library. Now there's so much out there. You just have to go to the places that are more credible. So that's how people go. But for myself, I then took what I'd learned, and then I started to do the hypnosis. And that's why those first 3 kids were monumental in validating that I could do this, and realizing that hypnosis isn't what people think it is. It's effective communication. It's actually the art of influence for people to accept a suggestion. When I knew that, I also knew that the more I did it, the more stage time, the more skills I developed to then overcome any situation. And that's why I was a big believer to do shows wherever I could, whenever I could, approach all the different nightclubs, go to all the places that would have me do it for literally nothing, just to get my experience in. And I still remember doing my big show, the one that, doing all these small little nightclub or small little house parties, and then approaching the Sidetrack Cafe and saying, I could do a show for you guys. And that was the show that really was a turning point for me. After that show, I was already teaching, and I was like, I want to do this. I remember people saying, well, if that doesn't work out, you can go back to teaching. And I didn't even have that thought in my mind. I was just so driven to do that. So I think that's also been, when people ask me the question, like, how long did it take you to learn? It's hard to answer that, because I'm still learning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Continue.
Wayne Lee is with us. Good Scheetz is proudly supported by AltTech, a trusted IT partner and proud supporter of Alberta Dreams, the charity that I am lucky enough to work with. Strong communities start with secure businesses. Learn more at alt-tech.ca. So thank you so much to them. Real IT solutions for businesses that want to be better in the future. Visit alt-tech.ca. It's so interesting. The last time I saw your show was out in Mundare for the Stanichi's 65th anniversary. But it's not like you can hypnotize somebody that doesn't want to be hypnotized. You have to be all in for this to happen. If I just sit on that chair and go, well, I'm not going to be hypnotized. You're not going to be hypnotized. You have to buy in, right?
Yeah. And to play it on that point, Chris, like when somebody says, oh, I'm not going to do it, or I'm not going to get hypnotized. But the mere fact that they came up and sat in that seat tells me that they've made a decision to at least test this out. They don't even have to believe in it. So it's a two-way street where the art of influence from my end is really about understanding, listening, and getting somebody to open. So if I'm pushing against somebody like that, they'll probably push against harder. But if I say, yeah, probably won't work for you, but maybe you just want to be open to this. And how likable and how confident and how my state of mind comes into play will directly affect their openness and influence to get hypnotized. So there's a whole bunch of covert hypnosis going on. Like if I take somebody that's been hypnotized before, I can just put them into it like that. That's why, people that are in the audience were like, well, I don't want to do this because I've done it before and I get into it really quickly. And some of those people have to leave the room because the moment they even just hear the music or hear my voice, they're into it. Because it is a great feeling, because it is very natural and it is a place of restoring and refreshing your energy. So the answer to that is yes and no.
Interesting.
Social media right now, everything is a form of hypnosis if you really think about it. If I say, okay, here's the definition of hypnosis that we're going to play with. Just play with me on this. Hypnosis is the non-critical acceptance of an idea into your subconscious.
So
sounds a bit like TikTok for sure.
So when people get emotionally triggered, and they are invested into like fighting and invested into, what if the person on the other end, that was their whole hypnotic agenda, was for people to get emotionally charged? Like you look at politicians, you look at charismatic speakers, you look at teachers, you look at influencers. They are communicating in a way that is hypnotic. Like people can't even stop the scroll. So everything is a form of hypnosis. It's just a matter of degrees. When people come up on my stage show, it's one example of something that we call hypnosis that is a phenomenal example because it's a show. There's a phenomenon that's definitely being illustrated. Like when it still blows my mind when I can shake somebody's hand and say sleep and they're like out like a light. But one of the things I've done over time is I always wanted to educate people and let people know that they're not asleep. Now I can say, well, they're not asleep. And people were like, nah, they're asleep. Look, they're like out like a light. So now what I do is I say, if you hear me, shake your head, and they'll shake their head. Put your hand up, and they'll put their hand up. They'll wave. So they're in this very relaxed, receptive state, still awake, yet what's changed? That critical factor or resistance that allows openness. Can you tell I'm still fascinated with it?
Yeah. No, you said you're still learning. I'm particularly interested in the hypnosis of children as the mother of an 18-month-old who doesn't take suggestions very well. So an openness to receive a suggestion is definitely something that we could be working on. But I did want to know how much this bleeds into your personal life with your wife and your kids and your French bulldogs. That's another thing, is if we can talk about hypnotizing dogs, that could be helpful. But I want to know how much this mindset that you have and this kind of really deep knowledge impacts your day-to-day interactions as much as it does on the stage.
Yeah, I think that the beauty is that I teach what I need to learn most. And so I'm constant in a state of how to become a better communicator, how to have that very healthy relationship with my kids and my wife, how to become more aware and understanding what my triggers are. So I'm just blessed that I get to do that and know that my mindset is so important, if not the most important thing in how I show up every day. And also, I think a big thing is in the transition is that me realizing I don't have all the answers, and nor do I need to have them. And that's okay. Like being really okay with myself and not thinking, well, Wayne's the hypnotist that knows it all and is all powerful and all successful. People like your successes, but they love your failures. And so I guess the point that I'm getting at is being vulnerable, being humble, being so humble that it's a strength, so vulnerable that it's a strength. And knowing that what are some of the beliefs that I picked up when I was a child that I can work on, that I can deal with, that I can love myself more and be more real. Because I really believe that for myself, the best that I can do for my kids, best I can do for anyone else and my wife is show up and be in a bright, shining state of joy. And the state of mind of myself has more power than the words will ever, than just that energy that I emit. But the irony is that the words that you're saying to yourself every day create that. Like, it's a circle of never ending belief, action, thought, feeling. And so, yeah, it's a constant state of feeling gratitude that I'm in this position, and also feeling humble, and also feeling blessed of the relationships that are in my life that I get to possibly be an influence as well as also be influenced, because my kids and wife teach me more about myself than probably anyone else, and those French bulldogs too.
Yeah, your family is, always kind of in a positive way your toughest critics, for sure. Like, they drive us and make us strive to do better, for sure. There's no ability to hypnotize any of them. Hey, like, wouldn't that be nice? But I'm guessing
I'm working on it, Chris. Trust me. I can bottle that up and sell it.
Can you imagine if you could hypnotize? I'm just thinking about it. I'm going to a happy place, hypnotizing my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's possible. She wouldn't buy in, for sure.
Yeah.
This part of the show is brought to you by our good friends at Cook County Saloon and Steakhouse. Have you ever done a show at Cook County?
Oh my goodness, Chris! I used to do shows for Barrie back in the day, for years and years and years. It was like I still drive by there, which isn't that far from my house, and it brings back memories, and some memories that I can't share here.
I bet. Well, we love Cook County, and I don't know if you've been there since they've renovated. They added on. Vaughn's is no longer there, and now they've got the steakhouse, and it is fantastic. And they've got this larger capacity. It can hold like 1,400 people, and it's just and all the changes they made don't look like changes. They look like they should have always been there. So they just did a great job with the club. And yeah, you and I both have had moments at Cook County we don't really want to talk about either. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's iconic for sure.
Yeah, absolutely it is. I'd like to talk to you about, again, there always seems to be that one star in your crowd of the and then you lean on that person. It's always that one person, whether it's a man or a woman, and they really buy in, and you can tell right away that the crowd enjoys them, or they've got a bunch of family and friends in the crowd, and they just become the star of the show. That seems to be kind of the way it usually is, right?
Yeah, I think that there's potentially a lot more than just one person.
Right.
But one of the secrets, and I'm going to let people in, and it's not a secret anymore because I'm very open about it, is that many people ask me, they'll say, Wayne, do you know people that are going to get hypnotized just by looking at them? And the answer to that is no. Like, people are people, and it's a natural state of mind. But I do know this, is that if I ask the crowd who's been hypnotized before and it's been successful, and usually I'll say in a stage show, people put up their hand, or before I'll walk around, do magic and get to connect with them. 99.9% of the time, they're going to get hypnotized very quickly again. So a lot of times, those people that are very open to that, they are like the standouts. Like, they'll be like really into it. And once I hypnotize somebody like that really quick, I can tell their personality. I can tell if they're going to do well, but it also for the rest of the group, because I hypnotize them so quick, everybody else is going, oh, wow, that's going to happen to me now. So through the social proof, it really sets up a success rate of other people getting hypnotized.
Hmm.
That's kind of letting you in on the structure or the format of kind of what I follow. And then if there's no one that gets hypnotized, you know, I obviously take them through a whole process of suggestibility tests, getting to that point. And when I can see like somebody is so responsive and they're so open, there's a little routine I do where they become musicians. And I can see who's most animated and just really getting into it. And by that point, I know who's going to be like, okay. And so I've got to think quick because every show's different and you get different people up there. There's always one or two that stand out and I just go back to.
Let them be the star of the show, right?
Yeah. And, you know, over time, I think when I started out in the nightclubs, obviously I was doing material that was more nightclub focused, appropriate. And then when as I started to focus more on corporate events, I had to make sure that material didn't come with me. So there was some wild and crazy things in the nightclubs that back in the day, you know, without social media that stayed there.
Well, you talked about the guys that you told they were strippers.
Yeah.
You know, and lots of fun that way. Yes, Bailey.
I was just going to ask, kind of related to that, is there a standout moment for you, like in a stage show, where you're like, I did not predict this, a really unpredictable standout moment that you've had? I know it's been a long career, but is there one particular hypnosis person or moment that's like, oh my goodness, this was beyond what I thought was going to happen here?
There is, for sure. And it is in a nightclub. So I don't want any of the people that hire me corporately to judge me on this because this is way back 30 years ago. Well, probably 25 years ago. So I was at K-Days used to get me for the outdoor, but they used to also do like a nightclub show on at the Silver Slipper. It's now no longer there. And I'll never forget, there was a time where there was a routine where I would say disease, and a fellow would stand up and say, oh my God, I've got VD, which is now STD.
Yeah.
And that would trigger somebody that's hypnotized, a lady that would stand up and say, I'm a nurse, I can help. And then she would proceed to take his pants down. That's where it would end, because I'd go wake up as soon as she's trying to take his pants down.
Yeah.
It didn't end. I said wake up, and she was like laser focused in on getting those suckers down.
She was trying to help him. She was trying to help him out.
Because when I'll paint the picture. This guy, he was somebody that I knew from Calgary, so I knew he could get hypnotized really quickly. He looked like a soap opera star, like he could act in the movies. He was so good looking.
Yeah.
And when she pulled his pants down, he was commando. And let's just say this guy was not a small guy. I thought I was going to lose my job, obviously, because I'm at K-Days. It's in a nightclub environment, but that was definitely not something supposed to be happening. And I didn't plan that. And so I made the most of it. I kind of went in front of him. I said, wake up, and carried on. And then the show was done. And I felt like, oh my goodness, like I was concerned, like really concerned.
Yeah.
At the same time, like, okay, laughing like crazy, but
Yeah.
I was concerned because that was my job on the line.
Yeah.
And it was a time where back in the day, we used to go to Costco and we get these VHS stackers, like the recorders or the players, and we used to record the show and then sell the VHS tapes. So that tells you how long ago it was, Chris. And I'll never forget, after that show, Corey is just like, he's got tears in his eye, and my the video guy, one of my good friends, and these two ladies, these elderly ladies, they must have been in their 70s or 80s. They came walking towards me, like serious face. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm going to get my first complaint.
This is
and
it. This is it.
This is it.
Yeah.
And they came to me and they said, Wayne, we were at last night's show and we got the videotape. Could we exchange it for tonight? And I just thought that was the best.
It's
So I
like
made
that.
somebody's day, right?
You know what? You thought you were going to lose your job, and that guy was going to take your job.
Yeah.
He was definitely the star of the show that day, for
Yes.
sure.
Oh, so that's one that stands out. But on the flip side of things,
Yeah.
going into the empowerment and the education, there's been I've always wanted to leave people with a good feeling and possibly a tool of how powerful the mind is that they can use. So there's this exercise that I've done for pretty much the start of my career of some form, but it's really morphed into, it's more fine-tuned, and it's called the MEGA method, the mental endgame activation method. So after doing all the stuff on stage, I make the translation of like what you did on stage is no different than in life. You first have to see it in your mind. You have to visualize it as if it's achieved, and you got to feel it. Feeling is the secret. It's important. But what if you could feel that every day just by thinking of something simple like a color, putting your hand to your heart, fist pump with a word? And so that's what that exercise is that by the end of the show or keynote presentation where I still do hypnosis, I will end with my MEGA method. And I'll get people to think of their color, feeling as though they've already achieved that big goal, their gold medal goal. And also putting their hand to their heart, which is also a physical trigger, which is very simple for people. And yes with a fist pump, which is an auditory yes, which for me, it's an acronym that means you experience success. So I make all these little meanings and associations, and then they're on their way. To this day, I've done that for thousands upon thousands of people. And, you know, just as an aside, like I've hypnotized over 1 million people, and very proud to say only 3 people have never woken up. Just wanted to see the laughter. Anyhow, getting back to the MEGA method, I still get people emailing. I get people posting online where they said, Wayne, that exercise at the end, you know, this was somebody just recently, and it was 8 years after she was on my stage. She says, Wayne, that helped me run the Boston Marathon.
Wow.
And that's just one snippet. To hear that and know that it's had an impact is, yeah, the most rewarding thing is knowing that it appears that I'm putting people to sleep, but honestly, I'm helping people wake up. That was a line.
There you go.
But honestly, that's kind of and my wife and I are like in the midst of writing a book right now, and we've bottled it up. And I got to tell you that we use ChatGPT, like we use all, you know, resources out there right now. And the title that, and we couldn't even have done this better ourselves, but the title it came up with is Automatic Excellence. And that's, I think, what I'm all about is teaching people automatic excellence. Stage time to get to a point where you got the skill set, the mental skill set translates into the physical behavior, the performance, so you don't have to think about it. The default for most people isn't automatic excellence. It's usually automatic negativity. So how do you get to that point? Well, it's a mindset shift, and it's also practice and having the mental practice and really the belief in oneself that they can do that.
And not to make this about me, but I'm having a real aha moment listening to you today because, and I've told people this in the last little while, whether it's all the silly things that I've done in my life, I always can imagine the end, like at the end of it. And again, I never really realized it till now, but I'm like, okay, I'm putting together this event. My family will attest to this because I'm always putting together events. And I always can imagine standing on that stage at the end and seeing exactly the result that I expected. And I'd have to say so far in my life, in my 55 years, it's always happened, right? Like I've been lucky that way, but it's because you visualize it and you just make it so, right?
It's true. And just to add to that too, Chris, and thanks for the validation, because it's so true, is that I've interviewed Lorianne Munzer, who's an Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah.
And she used to say to me, she says, Wayne, I you know, every day I'd visualize, and I don't remember how long I was doing it for. Like she was in a trance-like state, but she visualized the outcome and the feeling of it. Like a lot of people, there's that distance of, I want to do that. They can see it. But what if you already achieved it? How would that feel to get to that moment? Because in essence, now I'm getting a little metaphysical beyond the physical, is that there is only the now. And if you think of the future now, you're living it. You're actually breathing it. You're actually creating it. And so every moment, if you can go, live in the future, or I should say plan for the future, but live in the now, I think it's a beautiful place to be. Right. And knowing that certain things, my guess is that because you're a risk taker and you go out and you're doing things, it's sometimes not exactly how you saw it or maybe how you thought it would come to be. And there's road bumps in there that were
Right.
adversities that
For sure.
that got you to become more of who you are, stretch, handle things, make better decisions. It wasn't easy. And that actually took you to another level.
For sure. And I would say that when it happens, whatever that goal was, that will happen. But the road to get there, it's kind of like renovating a house. It never turns out the way you expected it to, but at the end of the day, you've got your great new kitchen and it looks like you wanted it to. But the path to get there, and Baillie, I'm going to let you talk, but I think this is an important statement as well. And the influence that you have by having those thoughts, like with our kids, for example, we just always thought that they were going to be successful and they were going to be good kids, and they are good kids, even the one that's on the podcast. But
Most of the time.
there's something to be said from a parent's role in giving them that belief and empowering them to believe in themselves as well, right? And you kind of can teach that to the next generations too, can't you? And other people in your life that, in my life, I had so many people that believed in that goal for me even more than I did, and that's so powerful.
You're speaking my language for sure. And I also think too that kids that don't necessarily have that are so very freaking resilient that
Right.
they can turn it around. And there's examples of that resiliency where they didn't have the family support. So I always like to paint that picture that there's always a way. And there's always models that will show you, because the one thing that I see, and it happens just scrolling too, is the victim mentality. And not that I'm phrasing it this way, but this is just what's coming to mind, is the participation pins, right? Or the participation, like you just, you get this for like, we don't want to hurt kids' feelings anymore for the most part, and it's like, they need to experience that. They need to experience the hardness to get to that level of realizing that they can handle shit. They can handle stuff, right?
That's amazing. I do want to talk about the work that you're doing now, because it has come a long way from, like you said, the stages in nightclubs and men accidentally getting their pants pulled down. We've come a long way from that. How would you describe the speaking engagements that you do now?
Well, one of the things, like probably in the middle of my career, I was like, I want to do corporate events, and I kind of left like fair market and a lot of that. And it was a time too with my kids and growing up, where I realized that and I never did let go of the entertainment, because I always loved the entertainment. And so it's just morphed into a much more crisp, corporate friendly show. But the beautiful part is that I always wanted to bring out a message more. And that message is now morphed into a keynote that's called Ace Your Day. So it's activate your mindset, clear your mental blocks, and then elevate your emotional state, which we hear a lot nowadays, emotional intelligence. And so through that, through hypnosis, through other mind empowering techniques, I teach people in a very interactive way, still using hypnosis routines and demonstrations, and through neuroscience, teaching people more of a message of how they can boost their performance to become, who they really are and live their best life. And that really is focused on a lot of the corporate events, the associations that get me for their keynote kickoff or their closing, where I can spend 60 minutes, 90 minutes and have that impact. But then also too, one of the big challenges for my wife and I is when COVID hit, everything shut down for me. It was live stages, that all shut down. So it forced my wife and I to create coaching programs that I've always wanted to, but that was the catalyst to kick me into high gear, where now we have follow-up programs, a 90-day program to teach people how to reprogram their subconscious for more success, how to, become more confident, how to hit your end games. And so now I feel like with that, it's even at another level, where now releasing a book here in the next year is getting it out to people to, again, empowerment to me is about not me empowering people. It's about people waking up to their own brilliance, greatness, and then living that. And then that's the greatest leadership I think that can exist, is people leading themselves. Right. So yeah, that's it. And specifically, I'm now on the road doing, it's a lot of people say, well, that's a lot of events, but I used to do 300 events a year with everything because I loved it. I didn't, have a family and I was out there. And now the journey is that I'm so blessed is that I get to do, 60 events per year and still be around Edmonton with my family and, be here working out of the office. But when I'm on the road, that's so much fun because that's where I feel most alive, is just doing my thing there. Yeah.
You know what, Bailey? I don't know if you're thinking what I'm thinking, but the power of hypnosis with Mother Dough Bread Co., one of our big sponsors, Wayne. The sandwiches there are unbelievable. Great bread makes great sandwiches. You like a good sandwich. I know that. I watched you have a steak sandwich the other day, and it was like, thanks for lunch, by the way. Again, I thought for sure when I went to lunch with Wayne Lee that he was going to hypnotize me into paying, but he didn't.
So hold it, Chris. You better check your visa statement.
He made you think you didn't pay.
Yeah, that was my card. That was my card. Mother Dough Bread Co. The sandwiches are fantastic. It's on the west end of the city, and if you haven't gone yet, Wayne, you should. And if you can just kind of give everybody a little prompt. Mother Dough Bread Co. Mother Dough Bread Co.
You just did the prompt on the count of 3. Everybody will have this uncontrollable, urgent desire to, have their mouth watering and go out and to go to Mother Dough Bread Co. on 3. 1, 2, 3.
All right, I got to go.
I can taste the carbs.
Yeah. Well, carbs are good, right?
Yeah, that's brain fuel. That's what we need.
It really is brain fuel. Yeah, you know what? So when it comes to, again, getting the people to stop smoking, maybe people to make a health choice change, which is something that I'm in the middle of right now. Like, and I've been there before. I've ran a couple of marathons, and I imagined finishing them before I ran them. So I this all makes sense to me. But it doesn't matter what you're looking for in your life. It's waking up and setting that goal and changing your mindset and like my dad used to say, it's a lot of work pulling that dark cloud over your head all day long, right? And so the key is to try to make it sunny, right? And just get rid of that cloud.
And people underestimate the sayings or the self-talk because it's so habitual. And I just think that if people recognize some of their big overarching beliefs, like somebody might have a belief that there's never enough time. Now, that may sound very simple and like one statement, but just think of how that plays out in somebody's life. Is that if there's never enough time, they might be a super high achiever. That's fine. But if there's never enough time, are they really satisfied in the moment? Because they're always thinking like, I can never get it done. Mm-hmm. And so being able just to understand like where people are feeling some doubt, frustration, fear, anxiety, and ask that question. I call it the wait question, WAIT. And this is where they should wait and say, what am I thinking? What am I thinking? Because when people make it a game, it becomes fun. And that actually starts to dilute the feeling right away because they've got some self-awareness. And there's people that are saying, they're not maybe saying this exactly like I'm never enough, but it's a subset of that. And if people just kind of look at their big overarching beliefs and they can even ask a question, and I call it the WIN question. Can you tell I like the acronyms?
Yeah.
Yeah. WIN is what if now? And then flip it to the opposite. What if now there was enough time and I just need to focus in on what's important? What if now I'm enough and I'm working on myself every day? What if now? Take the negative self-limiting belief, whatever you want to call that, and it pivots it. And really, ultimately, that's what hypnosis is pattern interrupts to get people into a trance-like state for a moment to accept a new view. Because if I said to somebody, you're the best, and they are so inundated with self-talk that's negative, what are they going to say?
Yeah, the best of being negative.
Yeah, they'll fight me on that, right? They'll argue. But I say, well, what if now you have some successes in your life? What are those successes? And they start to analyze how maybe, wow, they've done some things in their life that are worth celebrating. But so many people are focused on, again, it comes back to the focus, fix your focus on the negative aspects, right? And we're our own worst self-critics, right? We're beating ourselves up. And I know my wife and I took a whole bunch of people through our coaching program during COVID. And one of the thoughts that I would say was the most prominent, and I think our clientele, this is based on 85% of the people were female that went through our coaching program, was that they were beating themselves up too much. And a lot of times I would listen to what they're saying. And one of the statements was, oh, I shouldn't be thinking that, or I shouldn't be feeling that. That statement right there is what's creating most of the stress. Is that, no, you should be feeling that, because that's letting you know maybe that you're off course, or you can change it, or I shouldn't be. And that shoulding is usually picked up through a childhood belief of how things should be. Not to go on this, but again, it's a belief that we're already whole, complete, and perfect. And part of the perfection is being imperfect, because you're never going to get to that place of like, oh, and being more of who you are. And it's what Chris said when we were talking about the program Plurious, about if everybody thought the same and everybody was just thinking, it'd be like blah. Like, we are unique, blessed people because we're existing right here, right now, like us doing this. And if people understand how precious that is and own it and follow that. And I think I've been blessed because I realized that without a grand plan of, oh, this is what you're going to do in your life, your parents did it, this is what you're going to do, I got to discover what I loved, and I just followed my heart. So now, just to contradict what I just said, so maybe that was the grand plan all along. And in fact, I believe that because it serves me. So again, just, skimming over what are some of those beliefs that are possibly stopping you or stifling you, stagnating you, and what could I think that could open the door to be more of who I am.
And not to be just going back to you talking about 85% of the people that were in your coaching class were female. And, would you say, I mean, it's a blanket statement is dangerous, but females are harder on themselves. Like, they just seem to be. Like, I'm not that hard on myself. We're not typically men aren't overthinkers. We just we kind of get up, we put our underwear on, and we kind of take the day on, right?
Or you don't put your underwear on, as we mentioned earlier.
Or the guy that doesn't put his underwear on.
That's, you know what, Chris, that's my experience. I take myself pretty lightly. I think that if we look at all the studies, and I don't know, because I'm not, that research-based person that knows all of that. I agree with you, though. Like, I think, women are really hard on themselves because they're supposed to be doing so many roles, but now I can flip it to the guys too, and I'm like, look at all the mental health issues.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's something to be aware of in general for everyone, because everybody's an individual too, right?
Sure.
Like you and I, we're probably, very similar in how we were talking about being very social, very open.
Yeah.
And, we just let things roll off us at times. And some people, there's some guys that can be very, they can take everything, very personally.
You wake up and there's this expectation for you that, that's not realistic, but you are, like you said, your imperfections make you perfect. Right. And that's what
it's accepting it and realize that that's what we're here for, is to live that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm always like just celebrating my imperfections, Bailey, aren't I?
Well, we're all celebrating them. We're all celebrating them. Yay. The best are the imperfections that you pass down to me genetically.
Some call it imperfections. Others call it mental illness. Tomato, tomato.
Hey.
And all of us are laughing right now, and so one of the greatest gifts that we have is laughter, and so that's one of the things that I've always loved is the fact that we can always laugh about things, that we can always have something entertaining. And, if somebody said to me, Wayne, like, you're looking young, I would think that laughter is a big part of it. I get to be up on stage, not acting, like literally laughing as hard as anybody up there or anybody watching.
Yeah. Oh, and we've talked about this, you and I. My favorite, and I'm not comparing us at all because what you do is just like next level. But my favorite place on on earth, besides doing this podcast, because this has now become my favorite place, but that second place is having a microphone on a stage and making people laugh. Right? It is literally the best place for me to be, and that might be saying a lot about me, but it's an absolute fact, and nobody does it better than you, and you've done it for so many years. We have one more sponsor we must get in, and that's our good friends at Crystal Glass. You're very familiar with Crystal Glass, of course, Wayne. They've been doing their thing for 75 years in Edmonton, and they sponsor community Scheetz. And there's all sorts of different charities and things, and you talked about Bosco Homes and things that you've worked with in your life. Is there any kind of a shout out for any kind of a charity or an event that you'd like to make as part of Crystal Glass's community Scheetz?
For sure. So one that stands out for me, because you've asked me about personally which one's close to my heart, is the Terry Fox Foundation. Yeah, my good friend Darren, he had brain cancer. He was a teacher that used to hire me year after year. And then I was doing something at the Cross just for the staff. And I get this text out of the blue saying, Wayne, I'm in room 232. Can you come visit me? And I had no idea he was diagnosed. And he had a rare form of brain cancer. Everybody that had that, it was like what Gord Downey had, or tragically hip, have all passed, except Darren has been like a miracle. And today he's still with us. And he is the head organizer of the Terry Fox Run and does so much. And also with my dad having cancer right now, it's just something that is close to my heart in terms of the Terry Fox Foundation and the Terry Fox Run.
I think I mentioned it on a show recently. Terry Fox should be on all of our coins and dollars in Canada, as far as I'm concerned.
A true hero.
Yeah. The truest, and it sounds like Darren is very similar. So he's continuing to live out Terry's legacy. It's incredible. Your story is incredible. To give us this time and to share it again, Wayne Lee, folks. If you haven't checked him out yet, just to go online and he's got an amazing website. And you're so much more than just the man they call Ravine. But I do remember those commercials too that were on TV when we were kids.
They were hypnotic.
He would come to the Jube, and I think I got to go. I remember as a kid, like, my parents took us to stuff, and I'm sure I went to a Ravine show. Yeah. It's funny how I got such a bad memory, but I'm whether I believe I've seen him, but I think I've seen. I'm gonna have to check with my mom, but I'm sure I went to a Ravine show. You got to get the goatee going like he had.
Oh yeah, and the velour or the big shiny jackets. It's I do credit him to paving the way for guys like myself.
For sure. And then the other fellow you mentioned, the magician, I remember
Dale Harney.
Dale Harney, and you'll remember this too. This is like a core memory for me. Was every year when they would do the telethon, like the CTV would raise money for Camp Hee Ho Ha or whatever. And I remember Dale Harney they'd have him as one of the guests. Like they go for 24 hours or 48 hours live on television, and he would be on there. And I remember seeing him on there as well. So, wow, great memories for a couple of old farts.
Well, I'll leave you with this full circle moment I forgot to even mention. Not even sure when people are going to see this, but in Edmonton, my dad hangs out at a lounge, and he's, mobility is challenged. He's going through his cancer journey right now. But he says, Wayne, the lounge wants to maybe do a show with you.
Yeah.
And because it's my dad, and it might be the last time he sees me in action, booked a show in Edmonton in a small little lounge. And so can I say what the lounge is?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
It's Bonnie. It's the Bonnie and Bonnie Doon Mall.
Oh.
Okay.
And my dad will be there. Hopefully he can make it for the 2 hours. And it's all his buddies there. And it's just kind of one of those heartfelt moments where he was so proud when I got into this. And now it may be one of the last times he sees me live. And so it's a small place. It's full circle because it's where I started in the bars and the nightclubs anywhere. And I'm coming back to do this one show there in Bonnie at Bonnie Dude nightclub on March 10th, Tuesday.
On March 10th.
Yeah, I'll be
Awesome.
posting it on my social media.
Check it out, folks. That'll be a really neat full circle moment for you. Will your dad get hypnotized?
He's been in a trance for years.
Bailey would say the same
Mine
about her
too.
dad.
Yeah, mine too.
Oh God.
Wayne Lee, everybody, thank you for joining us. Thanks to Alt Tech, Crystal Glass, Londonderry Dodge, Cook County Saloon and Steakhouse, and Mother Dough Bread Co. Mother Dough Bread Co. Mother Dough Bread Co.
1, 2, 3.
Even when we got nothing to talk about, there's nowhere I'd rather be. 'Cause there's something about you and me just sitting around talking sheets.